How am I gonna hold all of these books up? That's a problem. Okay. I have reached the conclusion that buying books and reading books are two separate hobbies. Hi there, my name is Iasmina and welcome back to my channel. Today, books. More books. I bought more books. Yes, well, my last book haul I think was around 5 months ago and that's when I posted it. So let's say 6 months ago, let's say half a year ago, I think that sounds better. So, in the last 6 months, a lot has happened in the world, and one of my coping mechanisms is buying books to make me feel better. So today's video is the result of that. The first book I want to share with you guys is actually the book that I'm currently reading, and this is A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. You've never seen Watson and Holmes like this before, so this is kind of a Sherlock Holmes retelling set in a YA contemporary setting. Basically, the two main characters in this book are the great-great-great-grandchildren of a real, not fiction, real Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. And they are about to solve a murder. I hope they solve it. I would imagine they solve it. I've been interested in this book for a long time because I love this kind of detective story, and especially if it's a YA contemporary detective story, those are the best. In my humble opinion, I just love that combination. I'm kind of writing one myself. Hunting Vienna is kind of a detective story, although it's not a murder that they're investigating, it's something else, but So I wanted to read this because I love this kind of concept, and so far it's good. I will tell you more when I've finished it though, because yeah. These are in no particular order. There are a lot of books that I need to get through. So the next one is Ash Princess by Laura Sebastian. This is the first in a YA fantasy trilogy. Is it a trilogy? It probably is a trilogy. Just want to show you that this cover, isn't that cool? Has a little cutout. Yeah, so it's the first in a new fantasy series, well, new for me, but I've been hearing a lot of praise about this series from various YouTubers, and that's where I heard about it first. I think I heard it first on Elliot Brooks's channel. It says, the queen you were meant to be, the land you were meant to save, the throne you were meant to claim. Theodosia was 6 when her mother, the Fire Queen, was murdered before her eyes. 10 years later, Theo has learned to survive under the relentless abuse of the invading Kaiser and his court as the ridiculed Ash Princess. But when the Kaiser denies her last hope of rescue, Theo vows revenge. Next, I have Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Again, this author has been featured a lot recently, but mostly for her other book. But this one sounds more up my alley, and so when I heard about it, I can't remember where, I decided to pick it up right away. It's about a band, and I love anything regarding music, especially bands. Oh my gosh, if there's a band in a book, I'll read that straight away. Although I haven't read this yet, so that's maybe an exaggeration. But it says, everyone knows Daisy Jones and the Six. Their albums were on every turntable. They sold out arenas from coast to coast. Their sound defined an era. And then on the 12th of July 1979, they split. Nobody ever knew why until now. I'm not gonna read more than that, but I think that's intriguing enough for me. And again, bands, music, the 80s, almost. I don't think you can go wrong, and everyone says amazing things about this author, so I'm excited. Next up, a book that was virtually everywhere, Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I don't even know how many awards this won, but I saw it everywhere. I think the beginning of this year or late last year, I can't remember when it first blew up, but I think it's a literary fiction novel. That's really all I know. I don't like to know a lot about this sort of books before I read them, but I kind of like going in blind, but from all of the praise that this has gotten, I'm sure it's gonna be amazing. Next up, we have a sequel to the first book of the Summoner series, The Novice. This is The Inquisition, and I have a review of the first book, The Novice, up on my channel. You guys know, if you've seen that, how much I loved that first book, and so after finishing that first book, I immediately placed an order for the second, and I should probably place an order for the third as well, because I'm definitely hooked on this series and I really want to finish the whole series this year. So I guess I'll be getting the third one and then possibly other books, and then I'll have another book haul this year because yeah. YA fantasy, demons, kind of Pokemon-ish, awesome. Next up is a book I've already read, but that's not saying that much since it's very short. And this is Kim Jiyoung, born 1982 by Cho Nam-ju. This was a weird book. It's fiction, but it reads like non-fiction. It's a feminist story about growing up in the 1980s Korea, South Korea, and especially about being a woman growing up during that time. And this book made me very angry for the content itself, like for the things that happened to our main character. It was very impactful. I thought about it a lot after finishing reading it, so in that sense it was very good. I'll probably talk about it in a wrap-up at some point, but just the structure of it was a bit strange because it's fiction but reads like non-fiction, and the blending of that was a little jarring at times. Next up is a book I received in a Illumicrate box. I can't remember the month, I'm sorry, but this is Havenfall by Sarah Hollard, and this is one of the most beautiful little books I've ever seen. So it also came with a letter from the author in the box, and it's just so beautiful. Oh, and also a signed book plate. First of all, the size is so cute. It's a UK edition, but it's much smaller than, especially for a hardback, it's very small. I don't know if you can tell that, but it's pretty small. It just feels really high quality, and of course it has blue sprayed edges, and it has a ribbon bookmark, which ribbon bookmarks equal fancy in my humble opinion. I have no idea what this is about. This came in an Illumicrate box, so I hadn't heard of it before. It says, Maddie Morrow knows that Havenfall is more than it seems. Beneath the beautiful sprawling inn lie the hidden gateways to 3 ancient realms. Maddie's destiny is here, rooted in her family's promise to protect the fragile alliance between the worlds. But when a brutal murder shatters the peace and someone she loves stands accused, Maddie must step forward to protect the place and the people she cares for most. Her safe haven will never be the same again. So it sounds a bit like a Portal fantasy. I love the look and feel of this book. It's very nice. Then we have 2 books by the same author, who is now my favorite YA contemporary author, and that is Alice Oseman. We have her debut novel, Solitaire. She published this when she was 18. I'm not even gonna. And her newest release, Loveless, this just came out recently. I pre-ordered this because, like I said, Alice Oseman is now my favorite YA contemporary author. I love her writing to pieces. I love her books to pieces. And with these 2, I now have a complete collection of her novels, although she has a graphic novel series as well that I do not have yet, but I am meaning to get. But these 2, first of all, it's so satisfying. I can't be bothered to go grab the other 2, but it's so satisfying when cover art styles match for novels that are not in a series. These are all standalone YA contemporary novels. I don't know too much about her debut, Solitaire, but from what I could tell from the back, it's about a young girl who likes to blog and who is very sarcastic or cynic. Something about Solitaire, which is a club of some sort. It says, I don't know what Solitaire are trying to do, and I don't care about Mike Holden. I really don't. It sounds like she does. But her newest release is the one that I'm most excited about. The main character in this is Ace, and I'm pretty sure it's about her self-discovery of being asexual and aromantic, and yeah, that's all I need to know. I just love her books so much. If you haven't read Alice Oseman and you like YA contemporary, pick up any of her books. You will not be disappointed. I remember that I went on a spree of buying sort of sequels and continuations to series that I had started and really liked, but never got around to continuing. And one of these is Give the Dark My Love. That's the first book. The second book is Bid My Soul Farewell by Beth Revis. This came out a while ago, but I had never thought of looking up that the second book came out, and it's actually a duology. So this is the second and final book in this duology, and I loved Give the Dark My Love. Really dark YA fantasy, and so I'm really excited to finish off the duology, and I will do a duology review after I've read this. It shouldn't take me too long to read, but we all know that it takes me a long time to get to books that I buy because I have too many books. Then we have another book that I pre-ordered. I very rarely pre-order books, but I just realized in this haul alone I've pre-ordered 2 books, Loveless and then Night of the Dragon by Julie Kagawa, which is the third and final book of Shadow of the Fox series. I just posted, or at the time of filming this video, I just posted a review of the entire series of Shadow of the Fox, YA fantasy, Japanese inspired YA fantasy. Amazing, one of my new favorite series, so this was the third and final book, and to be honest, I was surprised when I received it how short it seemed compared to the other two, but I think they just used different types of paper, so it's thinner, because compared to the other two, it looked a lot thinner, especially for a finale. They usually are bigger, but it did not disappoint. This was one of the best endings I've ever read. I have already read this, obviously, and yeah. Check out my review of the series if you're interested. Let's continue on with series continuations. I bought The Elite and the One by Kiera Cass, book 2 and 3 of the Selection series. I will post a review of the Selection sometime. Maybe you've already seen it by the time this video goes up. I read that book and I really enjoyed it. It surprised me how much I enjoyed it, so I immediately picked up the rest of the trilogy, although there are 2 more books. I think it's 5 books in total, but these first 3 follow the original main character. I'm not gonna spoil anything more than that, but the Selection is a YA dystopian. Remember that? That's a genre that still exists, even though these came out a while ago, and I'm pretty sure recently they announced a Netflix adaptation of the series, so I'm excited for when that comes out. But I mean, look at these covers. Really pretty, and it's definitely very romantic, which is not the type of plot I usually go for, but yeah, like I said, it surprised me how much I enjoyed the Selection, so I'm excited to finish the trilogy, or the first 3 books in the series. Then another sequel, this is The Vanishing Stair by Maureen Johnson. This is the second book to Truly Devious, which I don't know if it was my favorite book of last year, but it was one of my favorite books of last year. I will link my top 10 books of 2019 video down below if you're curious, but Truly Devious was number 2 or number 3 or somewhere around the top. I loved that book so much, and this is the second novel, and it is a YA contemporary detective story, which, as I mentioned before, I really enjoy. So, and the writing in this, in the first book, was beautiful. One of the most enjoyable writing I've read in a long time, and the main character was fantastic, Stevie, so I'm excited to continue reading about her in the second and third book, which also recently came out, but I have not bought that just yet. And then the third book in the Wyld trilogy? I'm not sure if it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be more than 3 books, so I'll just say series. This is Bloodwitch by Susan Dennard. The first book is Truthwitch, also read Windwitch, and the third book is Bloodwitch. And in this world there are different types of witches, and blood witches are able to control people's blood and make them do weird things. That was a great explanation, thank you. I'll be here all day. Okay, I think those were all the continuations. There's still more, don't worry, there's still more. But everything else is the first book in the series or just standalone. So this is I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. This is a YA contemporary novel that came out quite recently at the time when I purchased it. And it's a very floppy book. This is important, okay? It's very rare that books are floppy like this. I like it. This is a queer romance story. It says on the back, it's just 3 words. I am non-binary. But that's all it takes to change everything. And Becky Albertalli, another fantastic author, says, heartfelt, romantic, quietly groundbreaking, this book will save lives. And I think there's no greater praise than that. Then we have another gorgeous book, We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. I don't think the camera does this justice because you kind of have to feel it, but it feels so high quality, this book, even though again it's a very small book. This is a YA contemporary story about grief and mental health. I think the main character has anxiety. I can't get over how this feels, okay? I'm sorry, I'm weird like that, but it also won the Prince Award for a young adult, which is a very regarded prize, so I'm really excited to read this. In this haul, I think there are a few books that I'm the most excited about. I think Loveless by Alice Osman, and this. This is Kings of the Wyld by Nicholas Eames, and this is the best sounding fantasy concept fantasy series I've ever heard. When I first heard this concept, I think I was like, whoa, I need this right away. Now, this is a Gathering of the Band story set in a fantasy world, and I'll just read you the back. Glory never gets old. Clay Cooper and his band were once the best of the best, the most feared and renowned crew of mercenaries this side of the Heart Wyld. Their glory days long past, the mercs have grown apart and grown old, fat, drunk, or a combination of the three. Nice. Then an ex-bandmate turns up at Clay's door with a plea for help, the kind of mission that only the very brave or the very stupid will sign up for. It's time to get the band back together. Guys, this sounds amazing, and everyone I've seen read it has loved it, and it just sounds so much up my alley. I don't think I've ever found a fantasy novel that sounds more up my alley than this. I heard it's really, I mean, you can tell by the back that it's humorous, and I just love this kind of the sound of this because it sounds adventurous and funny and not too serious, but also fantasy and awesome. I'm so excited. That was a weird sound. I'm so excited about this. Next up we have a kind of a strange book. This is called Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Sapina, and it is a blend of a graphic novel and a novel, or it includes, I don't know if you can see, maybe it doesn't actually include that many, but it has comic strips. Every once in a while. I thought it was more. There's definitely, you know, it's kind of a combination of that, and all I know is, again, the main character has anxiety. In the real world, Eliza Merk is shy, weird, and friendless. Hi. Online, she's Lady Constellation, the anonymous creator of the wildly popular webcomic Monstrous Sea. Then Wallace Warland, Monstrous Sea's biggest fanfiction writer, transfers to her school and draws her into a life offline she never could have imagined. Alright, yeah, that sounds really cool. But when Eliza's secret is accidentally shared with the world, everything she's built, her story, her relationship with Wallace, and even her sanity begins to fall apart. That's really cool. Kind of reminds me of Radio Silence by Alice Osman. Again, one that's been praised by a lot of people. It just sounds like something I would really, really enjoy. It says a love letter to fandom, friendship, and the stories that shape us. Totally. I mean, come on. Yeah, definitely something I'm sure I will love. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Next up is another YA contemporary novel. This is Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzalez. This is also a recent release, or recent at the time when I purchased it. And again, it's another queer story. From what I know, this is a Grease retelling. Now, I've never seen Grease, but I know it's popular. It says, Ollie falls for Will over the holidays, but once summer ended, Will stopped texting him back. Enrolled at a new school, Will's school, Ollie finds that the affectionate and comfortably queer guy he knew from summer isn't the same one attending Collinswood High. This version of Will is a class clown, a basketball jock, and, well, a bit of a jerk. The last time Ollie gave Will his heart, Will handed it back to him, trampled down and battered. Ollie would be a fool to trust him with it again, right? Dun dun dun. I guess he does. He does trust him with it again. Next up is another start to a fantasy series, though this one much longer. This is Furies of Calderon by Jim Butcher. Jim Butcher also wrote the Dresden Files, a series that I also started, well, I read the first book a while ago, but that's an urban fantasy. This is high adult fantasy. I'm pretty sure he wrote this series because someone challenged him to write a fantasy story with Pokemon. That sort of concept, which again, I loved The Summoner, which is kind of that also. But this is a high fantasy novel with that same concept, so of course I'm gonna read this. And finally, the last fiction book I'm gonna show you. I have a few more non-fiction. But the last fiction book is The Kane Chronicles, The Red Pyramid by Rick Riordan. Now, I've read the first 3 or the first 4 books in the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan, and I enjoyed those well enough. I just never really felt the need to continue with that series, but I was always more interested in some of his other series, this being one of them, The Kane Chronicles. And this is about a group of teenagers who go on adventures, well, in Egypt, obviously. My name is Carter Kane. I guess it started in London, the night our dad blew up the British Museum. He exploded the ancient Rosetta Stone and unleashed Set, the Egyptian god of chaos. I don't know about you, but that sounds awesome. Alright, and then finally, the last 3 books are all writing craft books. You guys know that I buy these to get better every now and again. And so this is the fiction formula, The New Rules of Self-Publishing Success by Sean M. Platt and Johnny Trent. I've already read this and it's basically as the title says. And then I have 2 books about editing because I need to get back to editing and I needed some more inspiration. This is the Artful edit on the Practice of Editing Yourself by Susan Bell. And then I have Revision and Self-Editing for Publication, Techniques for Transforming Your First Draft into a Novel That Sells by James Scott Bell. I've also read stuff by James Scott Bell before. These are all really great for an inspiration for writing and also, of course, about learning new techniques and stuff. It's mostly just to get me back into the gear of, you know, for example, editing and refresh my memory on some techniques that I need to do that because I'm gonna need that very, very soon. But that's it. Those were all of the books that I bought since my last book haul. I know they are a lot and they're going to take me a long time to read. I also have many other books I have not read yet. Anyway, what are some books that you guys purchased recently and how are you coping with the current situation? Are you also coping by buying things that make you feel good? Or are you normal? Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I will leave links to other videos of mine down in the description if you're interested to see more. And otherwise, I hope you have a great day and I'll see you next time. Bye!